hours and 30 minutes to complete the entire lock process. From being lowered from the level of the lake all the way to the level of the Caribbean Sea.
Okay, we're ready to go. Let's go this way. Let's get going this way. Appreciate it.
Okay guys, hello. Welcome here to Panama Canal, Agua Clara Locks Visitor Center. Nice to meet you. My name is Ethan. Over here we are going to do a short excursion. I also wanted to ask you a little bit about what you guys prefer to do. Okay, so we have a 10-minute video that you guys can see, or if you prefer to see the operation for the remaining time. Okay, let's do the operation then. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, what is happening in front of us here at the Agua Clara Locks is that we are preparing the chambers to receive the vessel that is to our left side, container ship on the company Mediterranean Shipping Company. The sirens and alarms that you are listening to are an indicator that the gates are opening in front of the ship. Here, these rolling gates were designed and fabricated in Italy by a company called Picone, and they consist of being made out of steel plates that are hollow inside They weigh approximately around 3,300 tons. The gates measure an approximate 192 feet in length or 57 meters, about 30 meters tall or 100 feet tall, and approximately 33 feet wide. These gates are a little bit different from the gates that you see on the Century-Old Canal, where over there the gates are hinged. Here, we opted to use rolling gates, or also to work similar to pocket doors. If you guys ever look at a pocket door, you'll find that the space where the gate can be opened can also be used to do reparations in position and in dry. And this way we can maintain the lock operational So from here, we can also start to see to our left side how the tugboats are assisting and pushing the ship to align it with the center of the chamber. This way to ensure the ship maintains its course at all times, maintaining direction. There will be a total of 6 tugboats used. But at the end, once the ship has entered successfully into the chamber, there will only be 2 remaining. 2 remaining tugboats. The one will be tied here at the bow or at the front of the ship, and the other one will be tied on the stern or on the back side of the ship. The reason why we use tugboats here is due to the fact that these vessels require more force or more capacity to have enough steering and stability in the center of the chamber. If you guys visited Miraflores Locks or the Century-Old Locks, over there we use some electric locomotives. For a maximum capacity vessel, we can use 8 locomotives in the Century-Old Canal, but here in the expansion, vessels are twice as large and they can carry up to 3 times the max capacity of cargo that is allowed in the Century-Old Locks. To be precise, the maximum capacity of containers a ship can carry in the Century-Old Canal is 5,000 containers. Whereas here in the expanded canal, vessels like this, Neo-Panamax vessels, can carry up to 15,000 containers. What is fascinating is that here, even though that we can pass more cargo, we use less amount of water. If you look at the locks, you will see that parallel to the main chamber, there will be 3 water recycling basins, like 3 levels of water storage tanks. These are used to save at least 60% of the water necessary for the transit of the ships. This is because the water that is used here at the Panama Canal is actually fresh water coming from the rain and rivers that is stored in our artificial lakes. In particular, this vast body of water that we see on the distance is actually an artificial lake. This one was created between 1907 and 1913, when the waters of the Chagres River were dammed, not so far from here, close to its exit towards the sea, and thus the waters of the river started to flood the mountains until it created this artificial lake located around 26 to 27 meters above the oceans. In the case that you are using Imperial, it is located around 85 to 88 feet above the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. For Panama Canal purposes, both the Atlantic and the Pacific are like our shoulders, the same level. So the ships use the locks as water elevators to be able to be raised in 3 steps from Pacific Ocean level to reach the level of the lake. Every time a ship transits through the canal, they consume water. Through the Central Canal, they can consume around 200 million liters or 52 million gallons. But here in the expanded canal, with the use of the water recycling basins, we pass 3 times the cargo, but use 7% less water than the Central Canal. In total, around 48 million gallons or 180 million liters. Daily, we receive around 11 transits here through the expansion. Day and night, 24/7, 365 days of a calendar year, these operations are performed. Now you can see that slow and steady, the ship is going forward using her own propulsion, her own propeller, while this whistling sound that you just heard coming from the tugboat operators, that the first tugboat that is on starboard side, right here in front of us, they are notifying the line handler team. You can see that there's a rope hanging there. They are making them signs to release them as the vessel is going to approach in the wall of the locks, as they're now going to prepare to abandon the operation, and only 2 tugboats will remain. Also, to tell you a little bit about the vessel that transits through the canal, before they enter the canal, they must first make a reservation and then proceed with an inspection to verify that the ship has all of the safety measures available for the efficient transit. Once the vessel passes the inspection, a Panama Canal pilot will board the ship, and then he will receive the navigational command of the vessel. There will be also a flag raised representing this on the mast of the ship, or the upper side. That is a half white, half red flag that we can see here from a distance. Then the Panama Canal pilot is the person that will be located at the bridge, or these like areas on the side of the navigational bridge, that will be giving instructions towards the tugboat operators, as well as communicating at all times with our squad of line handlers that will be on the bow and also on the stern. So more than 70 people are working together for the transit of the ship. So communication is key in these operations. Usually it's a combination of lights, whistling sounds, bells ringing, as well as radio communication. The vessel is carrying containers of all types. The colors, like blue, red, yellow, usually are just a representation of the company that is doing the logistic of transporting the container. However, every time that you see a white container, white colored container means refrigerated cargo. Usually in this type of containers, they will have like a cooling unit that will maintain the temperatures throughout the entire voyage during months. Usually in this type of refrigerated cargo units, we can carry fruits, juices, vegetables, also products sensitive to temperature change like medicine, meats, fish, and among others. This is how also then they are getting distributed throughout the different markets and ports around the world than when we can find in our supermarkets at home. For example, in the yellow and blue containers, they can carry almost anything like furniture, electric devices, packaged or canned food, clothing, clothing especially. So something that we are wearing right now could have passed on one of these ships and could have passed maybe through the Panama Canal. Over 5 to 6% of the global maritime trade transits through this waterway. This can be visualized with around 13,000 transits per year. On average, every ship takes around 10 to 12 hours to navigate the entire canal, crossing from one ocean to the other in just less than a day. So the Panama Canal became a vital artery for commerce. And in particular, we can connect more than 180 maritime routes that can reach over 1,920 ports in more than 170 countries. By reducing the time, distances, costs, and of course carbon emissions, makes the canal's operations a more sustainable green road. The water, in particular, is our main challenge or our main goal. That our mission here at the Panama Canal Authority is to guarantee the water that, as you know, fresh water is replenished naturally by rain. Here in Panama, we have around 8 to 9 months of rain that constantly replenishes the water levels of our lakes. And the reason why we make an emphasis on water saving is due to the fact that the water from the canal is used to supply the Panamanian population with drinking water. In the present day, more than half, about 2.5 million people, depend on the water of the canal. Additionally, we generate power to operate the locks, and also those sustainable communities that live around the areas of the watershed of the Panama Canal also assist us with reforestation efforts, and also with cultivation of different products for local consumption, especially coffee. In other words, the Panama Canal is just like a huge water enterprise that simply regulates how much it is used for the transit of the ships and to keep supplying the Panamanian population with drinking water. That is the main goal. So, now ladies and gentlemen, we can see from here the excellent entrance, slow and steady, of the ship as this very nice breeze that we're having, this very cool breeze. It's very refreshing to us, but for the operations might be a bit tricky. Sometimes a lot of wind creates resistance. As you can see just by the corner here where you'll see a post, a pole with an orange wind sock or wind tunnel. We can see that wind is playing a very important role on the steadiness of the operation. From here we can also say hello to the Panama Canal employees wearing orange helmets and sky blue shirts. That is what maintains this canal running with efficiency. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause for the Panama Canal team. Well guys, it's been a pleasure to share these moments of operation with you. Just wanted to let you know that for those interested in using our toilet facilities, they are located here at the main corridor, main hallway, just between the vending machines. Well, guys, just to let you know, here at the observation platform, we will remain until 5:15, and then at 5:15 we are going to see a video presentation out of schedule just for you guys. At 5:15, then we proceed to go towards our projection room so that we can see a 10-minute video presentation about the history, construction, and expansion of the Panama Canal. In the meantime, I'm going to be sharing you more details about the operations and about what are the following things occurring. the vessel has entered successfully into the chamber, what the following maneuver that is going to be performed is how our team of line handlers is going to use the hawsers, these very thick, long ropes, or mooring lines that this ship has to secure itself in position to different structures. What they are going to do is that they are going to use a smaller type of rope or a thinner rope that is called the messenger line. They're going to attach it to a certain machine that is here in the locks, in the walls. It's called a winch. The winch will start to pull the hawser all the way towards the walls of the locks, and then our team on the walls of the locks will tie it up or make a knot into a yellow structure, a yellow metal structure that is on the walls of the locks. These are called bollards. This will be done to fix the ship stable in the chamber, so that way when we close the gates behind the ship, it won't move around when we initiate the water transferring process. Start to hear the sirens and alarms indicating the closure of the gates behind the ship. These rolling gates have a rail system that helps them open or close in a sliding motion, thanks to a hydraulic car that pushes the weight of the gate. That hydraulic car is located inside the machinery room, the building that is right in front of the lock of the gates. Also, you can see on the stern of the ship, MSC Etna, registered under the flag of Liberia, country in Africa that is a leader in ship registration. Once the gates are fully closed and the ship has been secured in position, then on top of on the control tower that is to our right side, there will be the lock operators as well as the foreman that then will proceed to initiate the water transfer process. How does the water move? Simply by force of gravity. There are no pumps used here at the Panama Canal, where we just open up a set of valves that are underneath the walls of the locks to let the water flow through a set of tunnels and culverts that connect between the chambers. And then, in a course of 10 minutes, we can see the complete change in the level. Over here is where it's witnessed a kind of optical illusion, where the water levels here on the upper chamber seems to be low, but on the middle chamber, in the second chamber, it seems more higher. But in reality, they're at the same level once the water level has been transferred. Each chamber allows the ships to be raised or lowered and approximate 9 meters or 27 feet. The maximum dimensions allowed here for a ship is 51 meters wide and about 366 meters in length. And with the draft, or how deep the ship can be below the surface of the water, is about 15 meters. In the case that you are using Imperial, maximum measurements of ships allowed here is 1,200 feet long, about 167 feet wide, and about 50 feet in depth. Now with the gates fully closed and the ship already in position, then in a couple of moments we are going to start to see the water levels being rapidly lowered as we will initiate the water transfer process. Hours to 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete the entire lock process, from being lowered from the level of the lake all the way to the level of the Caribbean Sea. Also allowed new passages of ships that couldn't pass through the Central Canal, especially carriers like tankers with liquefied natural gas or large size LPG tankers. In the chamber, towards the water recycling basins, around 20% per basin. Once the 60% has been passed towards the basins, the remaining 40% will then be transferred towards the next chamber. By doing this, we can drastically save the amount of water used for the transit of the ships. Just to let you know, we are going to keep seeing the water transfer process. After we see the water levels decrease, then we go to the video presentation.
Ready to
I'll give you the signal. I'll give you the signal. We're transferring about 200 million of water, or about 54 million gallons, more than 54 million gallons of water towards the chambers, all through a course of 15 minutes. This would be the average amount to fill up at least 75 Olympic swimming pools. Very well, dear visitors. As almost the water transferring process is completed, we would like to now invite you all to the video presentation in English so that you are now able to